Torah portion, Eikev. We're the second reading in the Torah portion. Chapter 8, verse 11 in the book of Deuteronomy. All right. Beware for yourself, pentishkach, lest you forget. This Hashem Elokecha, Hashem your God. Levil tishmor, to not keep mitzvahs of his commandments, mishpotav, and his ordinances, v'chukaisav, and his statutory laws. Asher neichem mitzavcha hayom, that which I command you this day. Many times in the Torah it says, I've commanded you this day, right? Meaning that you have to see Torah as new, not something that's an old teachings or an old letter, but it's something brand new that has come to you today. And Rashi said this already, so he doesn't need to repeat it. Penteichal, lest you eat the savata and you be satiated, and you will build good, fine homes, and dwell within. He knows the way to the Jew. Give them, feed them, satiate them, give them nice homes. And then what happens, and your herds and your sheep, they will be multiplied of a kesef, of and silver and gold. Belach will be plentiful for you, will increase. And everything will increase. Now, what's going to happen? God's going to give you all of this, but not always we're thankful. And your heart will become haughty, will be risen up. Ram means to rise up, meaning to be haughty. Then you're going to forget Hashem Elokecha, Hashem your God, the one who took you out of Egypt from the house of bondage. Remember, you had nothing, where you came from, and now you've got this plenty, and this might lead you to forget Hashem. Not only took you out of Egypt, but he led you through the desert. A gadol, that's a great desert. A neira, an awesome one. Nachash, one that has snakes. Saraf, vipers. Ba'akran, and scorpions. V'tzimo'ain, a drought. Asher ein mayim, that there is no water. Hamaitzi lacha mayim, and yet God brought out for you water. Mitzvah chalamish, from the rock, a chalamish rock. Huh?
Not a good rock.
Not a good rock. Why?
He spoke to it.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, first of all, but that has nothing to do with the rock. When the rock brings out water, that's pretty good.
It seems like Moses did it rather than Hashem. Why he was penalized.
Yeah. Chalamish, 1 second. No, Chalamish is in Shmais. That was the first rock, which he hit what God told him to hit. So yeah, it was the second time was a Sela. First time was Chalamish, and the second time was a Sela, if I recall correctly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. 2 different types of rock.
Good rock.
Yeah, this is a Chalamish is a solid rock. Sela is a softer rock. Hama chilcha man bamidbar, that he fed you manna in the desert. Asher lo yadun aveisecha, that your forefathers didn't know from. Your forefather no one knew from. Leman anoischa, in order that you should be afflicted. Leman aseischa, in order that you should be tested. Hativcha ba'acharischa. That you're going to be tested to the benefit you in your end. That'll be good for you in your end. So what is the affliction over here? Manna from heaven, that's an affliction? You remember? We learned this.
They get bored with it.
Why?
Because it doesn't look so.
Because people eat with their eyes. They don't eat with their stomach, right? So when you look at it and it looks the same meal, same square meal every day or twice a day, whatever it was, right, then it seems it's an affliction. That's how the Jews took it, right? Huh?
They might meet.
They want to meet, they wanted, yeah, exactly. 17. Amarta b'levavcha, and you said in your heart. Keichi v'aitzim yadi. Interesting. Where the reference to this is. What did you say in your heart? Keichi, my strength, v'aitzim yadi, in the might of my hand. Asali, made for me is a chayil hazeh, made for me this wealth, accumulation, right? Chayil, in other instances, the word chayil is, what's the word chayil? You should know where the word chayil is. Chayil is a soldier, right? It means a powerful. So it means wealth over here in the context. So you said in your heart, that's my strength. In other words, it's interesting. Where exactly is that reference to? I'm not certain. Where did the Jewish people, they complained, but where did they ever feel that it was their power that brought them their wealth? I'm not certain of that. Pesach, any thoughts? I don't remember where that is.
Always.
No, they complained about things, but they complained because they, again, like they wanted to eat with their eyes, not with, right, not with the gift they got. And
They say, through my efforts, I amassed this wealth.
right, that's what this verse is saying. No,
That's
he's saying
something
that's
that's
what you
said
said in your
many, many times.
No, where? Show me once. Show me once. Okay. I don't recall it. It must be something, but I don't recall. Those words for sure were never used before. No, I shouldn't say were never used. So, anyway.
Google search, you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways. The Zacharta is Hashem Elokecha, and you shall remember Hashem your God, Ki hu aneisin lecha, because He is the one who gives to you koyach, the power, lasois chayil, to make your wealth, laman hakim is brischa, in order, because like it's a little, because they didn't make wealth in the desert. They didn't make anything. They got everything. So in what way did they thought they were made their wealth? Whatever they went out of Egypt, they had, right? But they didn't make wealth in the desert, seemingly. I'm not exactly clear.
And the animal, and if I'm not mistaken, and the animals in some tribes, animals increased in numbers, and that was the level considered the wealth in those days. How many animals you had, how many sheep.
Yeah, but where did it say? Where did God and Reuven say that, we were such good farmers, we did such a good job, and we have so much sheep and cattle, therefore we want to stay on the other side of the Jordan. They didn't present it that way. They just presented that they have great wealth and that they need, for cattle, and for the sake of their cattle, this is what they need. They presented in a way that they were responsible for it. That wasn't their sin. Their sin, and that was not even their sin. That wasn't their request. And what Moshe took them up on is, what, you're going to leave your brothers here, and well, they're going to go wage a battle. That was what he countered them with. Not that you were like you're haughty and thinking that you made your wealth. So
I thought that this was when you get to the lands that you're going to think that way, not during the desert. Meaning, if I'm going to make you wealthy in the land of Israel,
yeah, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. You're correct. Totally 100% correct. Thank you. You know what? Yeah, I have to be careful the way you read. I have to be careful. We all have to be careful the way we read, is because past and future tense changes with a vav. So the word amarta means you said, past tense. Ve'amarta, and you will say. I didn't read it properly. Thank you. Thank you, Amram. Yes. So, okay. So my question now is answered. They didn't do it.
And it says here, you will say.
I was reading Hebrew. I wasn't reading it in the English. So I read it, I misread it. because again, when you read the word amarta, it's past tense. You put a vav in front of it, makes it future tense. And I didn't do that. I didn't translate it properly. Huh?
This is what we are told in the Chumash class. But
I guess I should go to the Chumash class.
yes, you should. Looking forward to your comments.
Online.
All right, thank you. All right. Okay, v'zacharta, you shall remember, and you must remember es Hashem Elokecha, Hashem your God, ki hu hanotzen lecha koyach, because He's the one who's going to give you the power, elas chayil, to make your well, laman hakim. Right? I mean, you know what, Amram, it was like so obvious. The truth is, because the whole thing is speaking about you're going to gain wealth in the future, right? And that's how I read it, gain wealth, and then I went back in time rather than it's in the future. It's all speaking in the future, and that's what Moshe is doing right now. He already rebuked them for the past, and in the rebuke, he didn't rebuke them about you're haughty about your wealth, but he's saying in the future, right? Because manna is not going to come from heaven, so it's going to be you tilling the soil, so you're going to feel it's your power, your strength that did it, right?
Temporary?
Oh, well, it's very contemporary, of course. Right. Who are the people? Who are the people that who are more likely people to come to shul and to pray? The ones that don't have. The ones that do have are less likely to come to shul and pray, right? Because you have you're the exception to the rule. Yeah.
But they're there.
Huh?
On Yom Kippur, they're there though.
Yeah. All right. Anyways. So Laman Hakim is in order that God shall establish his covenant, rather, Asher Nishba, that he swore Labasecha to your forefather Kiyamazeh as this very day. Again, the whole this very day. In other words, God is making the covenant this very day. Bahaya, and it will be. Haya is past tense. Vehaya is future tense. And it will be Kishachayach Tishkachu. God is saying you forget, you will forget. God's saying before that he says 10 lest. And now he's saying it's gonna happen. It's Hashem Elokecha, Hashem your God, v'alachta achrei elokim achevim, and you're gonna go after other gods, v'avadetem, and you will serve them, v'ishtachavim lehem, and you will bow down to them, prostrate before them, v'heidoisi b'chem, and I am now witnessing, bearing witness, b'chem, in you, hayom, today, ki avoita avedon, you will surely perish. Okay, what does it mean you will perish? What?
If it's future, why does it use a conditional if? At least in the English.
That's what I just said. That's what I just said. That this God's giving a prophecy that this is going to happen. It will happen. Before that, he was saying if. Now he's saying it's going to.
The English doesn't say that. It says it will be if you forget, as opposed to when you forget. Because if sounds as though there's there are options, as opposed to something definitive.
Yeah.
In the future, this is going to happen.
So it's a wrong translation.
Yeah.
It's a wrong translation.
I wonder if
Trying to be PC.
Yes.
But it's wrong translation. Because it doesn't say if.
It says in Shachayah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's Sharon Shachayah?
Oh my gosh. I'm not focused, huh?
Give it all the borders, right? If it's going to happen by if.
Right.
If me. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, I stand corrected once again. Yep.
You're welcome to join the class.
No, that was just poor reading.
Well, these are the things we are learning in class already.
Here I'm. Kagoyim asher. Now, interesting. He says here that you will perish. Let's go further to the next one. Kagoyim, like the nations, asher Hashem ma'avid mipneichem, that Hashem is destroying before you. Kain tavedu, so you will also be destroyed. Eikev, because you will not because you have not listened, B'Kel Hashem, in the voice of Hashem Elokeichem, your God. So, what does it mean you're going to be destroyed? It means you're going to perish from the land, because that's what it was before. Here, it sounded from the previous verse, that you will in person perish rather than in the land of Israel perish, right? So now it sounds from the next verse, because the nations are going to be destroyed before you,
Shabbat,
and will perish, meaning from the land.
Shabbat.
Tisha B'Av, yeah. Yeah. Okay, chapter 9, verse 1. Shema Yisrael, hear Israel. Ata, you, Eiver Hayoim, are crossing today is a yard in the Jordan, Lavai to come. Laresh is to possess Goyim Gedalim, nations that are great, Latsumim and powerful, Mimcha, Mimeka, from you, greater than you, in other words. Arim Gedalis, great cities, Betsuris, Vashamayim, and fortified to the heavens. What does that mean? Gedalim, Latsumim, Mimeka, that they are great and more powerful, mightier than you. Ata Atsu, you are powerful and mighty. Behem Atsumim Mimeka, but they are more powerful than you. Am Gadol, a great people, Veram, and tall. It translates over here. Huh? Lofty. Yeah. Bnei Anakim, children of Anakim. Asher Ata Yedaita, that you have known, Ata Shemaita, and that you have. How do you know? The spies went and saw them. What does that mean that you know? I guess you know through the spies. Ata Shemaita, and that you've heard. Me, it's Yatzivni Pnei Anak, that you heard. Who's going to stand before the children of Anak? Yeah, from the spies. I guess he's making reference to the spies here. Last verse, Yedaita, and you shall know. You shall know Hayom, this day, Ki Hashem Elokecha, Hashem, your God, Hu Ha'over, he is the one who's going to cross you, Lefanecha, before you. He's going to pass before you. Eish Eichla, a consuming fire. Hu Yashmidei, he will destroy them, meaning the nations who you're going to cross over into. Behu Yachniim, interesting, and will subdue them. First, he's going to consume them with a fire. Then he's going to subdue them. It seems like it would be the other way around. Yeah, but you subdue, then you destroy. If you've destroyed already, what's there to subdue? Before you, them, and he will drive them out, and destroy them. Maher, quickly. As Hashem spoke to you. Interesting. Here it said quickly. Yesterday in Chitas it said ma'at. Slowly you will drive them out, right? Because if not, then there will be too much cattle that will run over the beast will run over everything, right?
This day is not related to the tall people, it's related to more.
What?
This day does not relate to the tall people, because today we're not fighting the tall people, but we're fighting internally.
Why?
enemies.
Yeah, the enemies in Canaan, in Israel. Yeah. All right.
Also within ourselves.
So it's interesting. Yesterday, so we said you're going to be, because the beasts are going to increase. If you're going to destroy Eretz Yisrael very quickly, right? There won't be people left there. Then what's going to happen? It'll be full of animals. They'll run over the place, right? But that's only if you don't do the will of Hashem. If you do the will of Hashem, then it won't be that way. But Hashem says, destined that you're going to do sin.
You got 25 minutes to kill.
Who wants to die first?
Joshua will take.
You know where you die? What does it say? Adam ki yamus ba'ohel. A man dies in the tent. So you can choose how you want to die. So die learning Torah. That's what I mean. Oyel is Oyel Shel Torah, is the tent of learning. So let's choose our death there. Okay. Huh? So let's see the Rebbe, what he has to say. Okay, so we said you're going to say in your heart that the strength and the power of the might of my hand made for me this wealth, and you need to remember that Hashem, your God, He's the one who gives you the power uh, of your wealth. So Rebbe asked the opposite. He says, "Is that really? Is it possible that you need a whole verse over here to tell us that to negate this sentiment that is completely mufrach, completely, what a person's really going to think that he, without the help of God, created his wealth? Where's this coming from?" Uh, So let's look deeper into this. Says, in there's a story in Chazal, in a debate in halacha about a certain oven, if it was pure or impure, and the whole story of what was his name? I forgot his name now. Rabbi Eliezer, right? Saying that it was he said that it was. He said it was pure. He said it was tohar, right? And all the chachamim said it was impure, and they said, if so, let the river Ganai go backwards, let the tree be uprooted and go, and let the walls of the base midrash. All these things happen, and then even was a heavenly voice that came and said that Rabbi Eliezer is correct, right? All these miracles happened because of him. It was quite obvious that heaven was aligned with him, and yet the Chacham said, "Look, Torah is not in heaven," and they paskined according to the majority of opinion. And then it says that Hashem was laughing at that time, that he was overtaken by the majority, right? Which is pretty crazy kind of story, right? So Natzchune Banai Natzchune, that my children were victorious over me. They won over me, right? And how could that be? How could that be? Because who are we? Who are we? God's children, right? And every parent wants that the child should be better than they are. So God gives us greater power than him, right? Got it? That's where it comes from, right? That's where it can come then, even the havamina, the thought that a person with their own power can create their own wealth. Because in spiritual terms, God gives us a greater strength that we can overcome even him, right? And go against his halachic ruling. So that's where it comes from, right? This idea. right? So what does it mean? That I am a child of God, and therefore I have greater power than God. Because God gave it to me, not because I'm greater. God gave me that greater power, right? He gave me that power, that I should use that power, and therefore that power is greater. Yes, it comes from God, but it's a greater power than God. Right? So then what's the mistake? And the mistake is that you have to remember, the verse continues, it says, Hashem, your God, that he's the one who gives you the power to make wealth. Chassidus explains that yes, the power of the child is greater than the power of the father. But this is not a power that is the child's power on their own. But this is a power that comes from the father, right? As Yafa Koyach Haben, greater is a power of the child, Mikoyacha, from the strength of the father. So that's what we need to know. Wow. So that's where a person can make a mistake, is that they can feel, yes, God gave, yes, I have, God gives me greater power than him. We see that, right? But what we need to remember is not like how our great achievement is, but where that power came from. So the father wants that the child should outdo them. The child should recognize that the only reason they can have anything that they can outdo is because they got that from the father, not on their own. And that's what the verse is saying. Wow, is that powerful or what? Hello, anybody get that? Or was that over everybody's head here? You got it?
I think so, yeah. You made it quite plainly clear.
Okay, good. All right.
And the father got it from God.
Huh?
The father got the power from God.
No, the father is God in the metaphor, right? In the metaphor, the father is God. The Jew is the child, right? And it's a metaphor, right? So that's what the verse is coming to say over here. Yeah, you've got greater power because the Father, our Father in heaven, gives us the power. We see that. Rabbi Eliezer, right? God was aligned with his opinion. All those miracles that happened because of his ruling, God was aligned with. But the Chachamim, the majority of opinion of the sages, was not aligned with him. So who are you going to align with? The sages? Or are you going to align with what God is obviously indicating? Going to align with the sages because that's what the Torah tells us. And therefore, majority rules, Torah tells us. The Torah is not in heaven. So we don't align ourselves with God, what he says, not after the Torah is given, right? We align what the Torah tells us. We have to follow that principle. And the principle is majority rules. The majority of sages were against Rabbi Eliezer. So God, this was a very big turning point in Yiddishkeit, right? The Torah is not in heaven. And therefore you can't change it. You have to base it on the principles of the Torah teaching. So therefore a person can't come and say, God told me this and this, and we got to change that and that. Can't do it. Right? That's called a false prophet. Achrei Rabim Lahatos in Parshas Mishpatim.
But didn't the majority sort of send the Jews down a negative path when the spies went and spied out the land?
No, majority rules on majority rules in halachic ruling. They didn't make halachic ruling. They made a personal opinion. Right? Shimon Leib, even though you're the Rishal, you cannot have a personal opinion. You can have a sentiment, you can have a thought, personal opinion. Rabbi Eliezer can have a personal opinion. It's not even a personal opinion. It's his opinion of what God is saying in the Torah. Personal opinion means, it's a bit cold for me over here. Can we turn down the air conditioning? Oh, it's a bit too hot for me over here. Can you turn up the air conditioning? That's a personal feeling. There comes to a personal opinion. But that's not Torah. Torah is based on what the Torah teaches. Well, like we learn Rambam every day. When we learn Rambam every day, we get that very clear on how the Rambam is learning it out from a pasuk. He's learning it out from a teaching. He's not learning out from a personal feeling, right? Air conditioning, higher, lower, that's a personal feeling. But the problem is we learn Torah that way. No, Rabbi Eliezer didn't learn Torah that way. The Chachamim didn't learn Torah that way. They learned it. What is Torah teaching? What's God telling me here? What's his message over here? How am I taking, how am I taking it out? And it's based on different principles, different, guiding rules, not just based on, what makes sense to me or what I prefer.
But isn't the Torah written in such a manner that it's open to different interpretations?
But yeah, but I would. How did I just explain that? I just exactly explained that point though right now. But it's not based on whim. It's not based on. I like lower the air conditioning. That's a personal preference. That's not truth. That's personal preference. We people learn Torah that way. That's not learning Torah. That's learning personal preference, and you're just superimposing it on the Torah. Learning Torah means what's the message the verse is saying. That's why I try to drill into everybody's head over here. Stop with your own ideas of what you already know. What's the verse saying? How's Rashi understanding the verse? That's how you learn Chumash and Rashi. And now it's not just on the verse because it's taking in everything else that we need to know what came before and so on. That's true. But we got to focus on what the verse is saying, not what my understanding and my sentiment is. That takes there's one word for that we need to work on ourselves. You know what that's called? Bittul. Self-effacement. Put aside my sentiment to understand what the sentiment of God is. So we're in Chumash and Rashi, we're doing it in a simple meaning. When it comes to Rambam, it's done in halachic parameters, right? It's a different parameter, Rashi in Chumash than Rambam in halacha. It's a different parameter. I don't know if it's easier. I don't know. I wouldn't say necessarily it's easier. It's a different parameter of learning. It's a different guidelines and teachings. It's
so direct that it takes out the personal. In my opinion.
I can't have an opinion.
My perspective.
No, you can have your understanding of what it's trying to teach you, but I'm trying to get across over here is the mind, how our mind, the concept of bittul and putting aside personal sentiment to try to understand truth. It's not easy. We all, look, I had my own personal sentiment over here. I read it wrong, at least subconsciously.
Perhaps if we take a look at Pirkei Avos, chapter 2, Mishnah 4.
Go ahead.
Make Hashem go your will, and he'll make his will your will.
Your will, right. Yeah.
Pirkei Avos, chapter 2, Mishnah 4.
Right. That's on a different level that it's speaking about. That's not that's bittul, but a different bittul. It's a bittul of ratzon, of will. This is actually a harder bittul of the mind. Because we all have perspective on things of the mind, right? Will means, okay, I'm putting aside my will, I'm going to do, God, what your will is. Right now, my will is, to eat a 3-course meal. I'm not going to eat a 3-course meal now. I'm going to learn Torah. That's right. Bittul of the mind means we all have perspective on an understanding of things. And to put that aside is a much more profound form of bittul. It's a bittul. They're both bittul, but it's a different kind of bittul.
But some overrides seichel.
Because you chose that, but in the bittul itself, right? Because the ratzon will be to do God's will, which means put on your tefillin instead of doing this, right? So say the words of prayer. right? That's levushim, right? That's the levushim, the garments of self-expression of the soul. But here it's even, the perspective of, which is, again, seichel is, the first thing that we internalize and we bring into us is the chachma and bina and so on of the individual, and how we perceive the world and perceive everything, right, is through that lens.
The song transcends those.
Yeah, but it's not. But it transcends it. But it's not the same. It's not the same form of bittul. That's all. There's different forms. There's bittul, like, a bittul of don't raise your hand to hit somebody. You might still have a feeling I want to hit somebody, right? So it's not a bittul there in feelings. I might even have the perspective the person deserves it. That's even a more difficult bittul. But it's easier bittul that I can just hold back my hand. That's an easier, because it's only an action. It's not in my thoughts. It's not in my feelings, right? So it's a different. It's bittul, but bittul's not. There's different forms of bittul, right? So to hold back my hand and not to hit somebody, right, is a bittul, but it's only an action, not in my feelings or even in perspective, because I think this person is worthy of it. Whatever. Just giving an example. All right, folks, Tanya's coming up.